Hey, it's time for TV Skywriter.
That I'm Patricia A. Murray. I publish the Durham Skywriter, this Durham, North Carolina's online community paper. And this is a special edition of TV Skywriter, trying out Blab. This is my second Blab, so to speak. That's an app that's compatible, supposedly, with all laptops and computers, tablets, and smartphones. But that might not be the case. Our guest is Omar Beasley. Why don't you introduce yourself, please?
Well, my name is Omar. Implant. I've been in Durham for 26 years. And I work here in Durham, have my own business and family. And I love Durham.
Cool. Let me ask you this real quick. Do you have anything else that's on in your house that might be stealing bandwidth? Because your speech is a little garbled. I tend to unplug everything, like my extra computer and even my TV.
I'm at home alone with two kids. One is playing his Wii.
Oh.
The other one has his iPhone.
Okay.
Using some bandwidth. So yeah.
Okay, I got you. So we'll just put up with it. It's all good. And you said that you had to download Chrome in order for this to work, huh?
Yeah, it wouldn't work with Safari. I have a Mac, so it wouldn't work with Safari. So I had to download Chrome, and now it's working. So
okay, that's fine. I mean, I'm new to Blab, and somebody told me that Chrome is the way to go, so that's fine. So, you can. Oh, go ahead, do your daddy thing. That's fine. You don't have to worry. Go ahead.
Here you go, buddy.
That's cute. Okay. So basically, I wanted to talk about the search for the new Durham police chief. We've had a couple of incidents within the past couple of years that kind of hastened the exit of Chief Jose Lopez. He was forced to retire, so to speak, by city manager Tom Bonfield. I wanted to first ask you, what do you think about Chief Lopez, and what do you think we're going to end up with in terms of getting a new police chief?
Well, the first part of your question, Chief Lopez, he came in here and he intensified what Chalmers had started with the bullseye. I don't know if you recall when they started the bullseye of Durham, where they mapped out the highest volume of crime in Durham, and it started as a really good concept. You know, you want to focus your attention to where crime is occurring in this city, and what they did with it, they took it to a much higher magnitude, where they did a lot of stops in that target area for no apparent reasons. To be honest with you, I was a victim of many of those stops. By law enforcement officers, and I wasn't too happy with that.
Are we talking about Northeast Central Durham or where?
Yeah, Northeast Central Durham, over there. I mean, the bullseye was about a 6 to 7 mile radius of an area, and I stayed over there by North Carolina Central. And when I drove through the South Side, I would get stopped all the time, and just it wasn't a pleasant thing.
What was the reason that was usually given?
One time I was pulled over with my family in the car, and the officer pulled me over, and when I rolled down my window and asked him what did he pull me over for, he told me I was riding through a bad neighborhood.
Okay, was that a question, a statement, or a warning?
Oh no, that was his reason for pulling me over. I was riding through a bad neighborhood, and I said I ride through this neighborhood about 10 times a day. I mean, I stay on the other side. And
weird.
He was like, "Well, let me see your driver's license registration."
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, went on from there, and I got pretty irate, and he called for backup, and long story short, they let me go with no reason because my license, registration, insurance, everything was intact. And he asked about my tint on my windows, and I told him it was legal. And he's like, "Well, what is it?" I said, "Well, you're the police officer. You tell me what it is."
Okay. Interesting. So this happened more than once?
Like I said, I've been pulled over at least 6 times when I stayed on that side of town.
Interesting. Now, I used to live right there on Branch Street, where the new, well, semi-new dormitory is now, NCCU. And I now live on Cap Street, kind of near.
I know where Caps is.
Like Durham Tech.
Yeah, by Forest Hills, sort of kind.
Yeah. So, well, I'm a woman.
Campus Hills.
Yeah, maybe they don't target women, but I was stopped maybe once, and that was actually for a good reason, because I forgot to put the new sticker on my license plate, and I happened to have it right there in the seat next to me. I just forgot to apply it. I was told to, I was given a warning. The other times that I was stopped was because they were stopping everybody. When the Durham Skywriter was in print, I used to make my deliveries at night, usually after midnight. And they would have these, what do you call those, where they stop absolutely everybody? They're just checking.
Roadblocks.
Yeah, they're just checking, And sometimes it was in a place that you wouldn't expect, like Parkwood. So I don't know if it was, I never had a problem with it because, well, I just didn't. But I've never been stopped for no reason, like yourself. So, and I can't imagine them saying, I can't think of anywhere around here that I would consider a bad neighborhood. So I think that's kind of weird.
Well, you figure you got the South Side or, like I said, Northeast Central Durham over there by Hyde Park. Those are neighborhoods that people can identify as being not the best neighborhoods here in Durham, but nonetheless, people have a right to drive without being stopped because they're driving in that neighborhood.
Well, I'm from the South Side of Chicago, so when people say bad neighborhood around here, I just don't see it. In fact, when I first moved here, people told me, "Ooh, don't go around McDougal Terrace." And of course, I took off to see what McDougal Terrace looked like, and I was like, "Oh, this is nice." But then I'm from the South Side of Chicago, so what can I say? Now, getting back to Chief Lopez, here's the thing. In 2013, there were about 3 incidents. In 2013-14, there were 3 incidents, which I think, like I said, hastened his departure. And one of them was the death of Jesus Huerta. He was age 17, and he somehow, supposedly, shot himself while handcuffed in the back of a police car. That was one incident. The second one, I forget the gentleman's name, Hispanic guy. He was killed in an apartment complex. He was given verbal warnings. I don't even think he had a weapon. And he was...
I think he had a knife. He did have a knife.
Right. Now, when I was writing about it, he was in critical condition. I never did find out what happened with that one. And of course,
he died. He did die, I believe. He died.
Oh, okay. Wow. And then the third one was I believe his name was Derek Walker. He was distraught over losing custody of his son. And he was waving what later turned out, and took a long time somehow for them to determine that it was actually what we call a pellet gun. He was waving around, and he was shot dead in CCB Plaza. People were very upset about all 3 of these incidents. And I think the protests that took place were mostly for Jesus Huerta, because it was the weirdest thing that a youngster could somehow... Now, when you're handcuffed, your hands are usually behind your back, right?
Yeah. When you're in the vehicle, when they are transporting you, in most cases, they will handcuff you with your hands behind your back.
Okay. So I saw, now it's really hard to find the autopsy photos, but I did see the autopsy photos. And I can be fairly agile, but I can't figure, anyway, it just didn't make sense for me that he could shoot himself in the mouth with his hands behind his back. Anyway, what I just wanted to say was that the protests were met by the police in force in riot gear. Chief Lopez is really questioned as to why the police came out there real hard like that in riot gear, chasing people down and tear gassing them, when some spectators said that what they witnessed was a peaceful protest that was marred by police action. And that it actually looked more like an exercise, rather than a protest that was being interrupted by the police. So that is, in a nutshell, what I think caused him to eventually be, I say fired, but I guess they're using the word retired, by City Manager Tom Bonfield. What do you think is going to happen now? They're going to take about 4 months to search for the next police chief.
I know a lot of people here in Durham, particularly the Black community. They want somebody from within the community from Durham to get the post. Hopefully, we have some good applicants from within the department that that we will be happy with, the citizens of Durham will be happy with. But two, you got to have somebody from within the department that can keep morale up.
Okay.
Department, because that's a key component as well. Because if you hire somebody from within that department that doesn't have the support of I would say most of the department, then you can have some problems from day one.
I guess there are morale problems. I heard that there are quite a few, or at least a few, racial discrimination suits against the police force. I don't know if they've all been resolved yet or not. I would guess there would be a morale problem right now. So. Yeah. Now, why do they say they'd like to see someone from within? I know you did say that the person would have to be respected and keep the morale up, but you don't think that someone should come from the outside?
Well, I for one wouldn't have a problem with it. My main concern is making sure whoever they bring in has the experience of dealing with a city that has the type of demographics that we have.
Okay.
Durham is close to 40%, Black, and we have a 6-7% Hispanic population here.
Okay.
So we have to make sure that we have somebody that knows and understands those dynamics, those different dynamics, those different dynamics that exist with those demographics.
But here's the problem, though. If we're saying that there is a problem with police culture that is allegedly stopping more Black drivers than white.
It's not alleged. It's not alleged. The numbers, you can't deny the numbers. The numbers say that when you look at that, Black males are less than 19% of the population here in Durham, but yet they're almost 70% of your traffic stops.
It's like 80. It's like the actual report is in the Durham Skywriter. You can actually find the link.
You said 80%?
Page. Yeah.
The numbers don't lie.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can see that in Durham Skywriter. And in fact, their third quarter report is also in the Durham Skywriter. The link is right there for you to see it for yourself and check the numbers for yourself. But here's the thing, though. If there indeed is a problem of culture, police culture here in Durham, North Carolina, wouldn't choosing someone from within the department be choosing someone who has been complacent with this, or complicit, I should say, with this culture of unfair treatment of so-called minorities?
Yes and no. I feel, because I've talked to someone, highly ranked in the department, and while they admitted that the numbers don't look good, and that they would like to do some things to fix those numbers, they didn't like how the chief was treated. But they admitted that it needs to be fixed. What's going on needs to be fixed. So to say that they're complicit, they're following marching orders. So you can't really blame them from what's coming down from the top. So
is it possible that someone can be promoted from within and they can actually change the culture themselves through, I don't know, meetings with the community? And is that really possible?
Yeah, I believe it is. I believe it is possible. But I mean, more importantly, I think some heads will have to roll, if you understand what I'm saying. Some people, I mean, that culture is deeply embedded in that department, and they would have to make an example of certain people. Even if you change the person from the top, doesn't mean the culture is going to change.
Exactly.
That so it has to be done by a purging of bad apples.
Okay, and how do you think these bad apples will be discovered?
Well, they know who they are. If they already work in that department, they know who they are.
Oh, okay.
I mean, now when you bring somebody from the outside, it's going to take them some time, or it's going to take other officers to gain the or to trust that chief, the new chief, as to who needs to be needs to be removed. Let's shall I say?
Okay, well, that's going to be real interesting. Now, I did an article, the Durham Skywriter, where I interviewed from the Durham County Sheriff's Office, Major Paul Martin, and he was explaining that nothing's really going to change until the policing is no longer like a revenue, like how can I put it, revenue-based model. Mm-hmm. And he gave me some really interesting numbers. Okay, like suppose, this is really interesting. He said, suppose someone is arrested for DWI. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you lose your license, and then you have to pay $90 for an analysis to see if you're an alcoholic. And then he said, even if you tell them that you never drink and you're just celebrating someone's wedding or whatever, no, you have to pay $90 to check to see whether you're an alcoholic. Then you have to attend the alcohol drug education traffic school. Okay. He said that could be 2 full day sessions, but they elected to stretch it out to 4 days. And he pointed out that's really hard if you have a job, especially one of those low paying jobs where you don't even get sick days or whatever. Okay. So they stretched it out to 4 days, 4 hours a day at the cost of $100 to $160. Okay. And then you throw in a few thousand for the attorney who usually pleads guilty. All right. And then another example he gave, suppose you're resisting arrest. And that means that could be something as easy as the policeman, I don't know, he pulls you over, he pats you down, whatever. And even if you do this or pull away, that's called resisting arrest. All right. So he says, okay, he gave me the numbers with that. If you get 18-month probation for that, all right, you are paying a fee of $40 a month. All right. That totals $720, which you probably don't have if you're not rich or whatever, you didn't plan for it. Then you also must take anger management classes. Okay, and all you did was this, right? You have to take anger management classes at $92 an hour for 6 hours. Okay, with both of these scenarios, you've probably lost your job. He also pointed out that if you have a pending case for as little as a $10 larceny case, okay, it's just pending. I mean, you haven't even been charged, all right? You can't rent an apartment in Durham. So it's really ridiculous. He was saying that the problem is, one of the problems with the, not just the Durham Police Department, but he said policing in general, is that it's revenue based. He says when they need revenue, when they need the numbers, when they need to bring up their numbers, and it's stated in the article that they'll head over to Fargo, which is in the so-called hood, rather than the Duke University area, because they know it's an easy hit, so to speak. So it's a really deeply ingrained culture. And for this Durham County Sheriff to explain this to me, I was really surprised that he was so honest in explaining this. But it sounds like an awful lot's going to have to change for things to get better. And it's going to be hard for it to change if they're counting on that revenue. And if that's determined that that's how they're going to get their revenue. As Major Martin says, they're collecting revenues on the backs of poor people.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's much like Ferguson went through and other towns across the United States. I mean, their judicial system is run and financed off the backs of poor black folk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The privatized prison system.
Right.
Off the black folks, off the backs of black folk. I mean, and it's designed. It's been designed since the end of slavery. It's free labor, free money. How they
Mm-hmm. I really wonder if one person can make a difference. I mean, you did say heads will roll or should roll.
Mm-hmm.
And I would agree with that, but I think it's a little bit more than just bringing in the next boss. There's going to have to be a systemic change. It almost sounds impossible the way Major Martin explained it, because he said the very basis is revenue. So I don't know how to solve that problem. I really don't. I'm at a loss.
Yeah. And like I said, most systems are revenue driven. I mean, they're looking at how much money they're bringing in. They're looking at, because for every cost of court, I don't know if you understand this or not, but for every person that pays cost of court, some of that money goes into the police fund. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Every single person who pays cost of court. He
was actually expressing frustration because a lot of the money that's made actually goes to the state, and only a little bit stays here in town. So it's really deep. At least the way he put it sounds really deep to me. And
well, if you pull it up, you could look at the breakdown of where every dollar goes. And yeah, a nice portion of it does go to the state, but there's other amounts that goes to the clerk's office, goes to the sheriff's department, police department, and it's broken down, and that's how they get some of their funding.
Okay, if you don't mind, I don't know. I'm just going to ask you this question, and you can answer it if you have the answer. I'm very curious when people blame or put the blame on the police for the amount of crime that occurs in a city. Do you have an explanation for that? Has anyone ever talked to you about that issue?
No, it's not fair. You can't put the blame of crime on law enforcement. Not at all. I mean, we have some outliers. I mean, we had a meeting last night here in Durham. Some of those outliers why crime exists. You look at poverty. You look at joblessness. Those are some of the outliers that lack of education. Those are some of the outliers that heavily are your indicators of where crime will exist. If you have a community where you have high unemployment, you're gonna have high crime. Mm-hmm. If you have an area where you have high poverty, you're gonna have high crime. You look in your areas and you look at your cities throughout the country. In those cities where you have very, very low poverty rates and very, very low unemployment rates, your crime rates are low. Mm-hmm. I mean, those are outliers that are consistent everywhere in the country. And if we can fix those issues, if we can put more people in jobs, get a better educational system here in Durham or throughout the country, the crime rate will go down. Period.
I think also better buy-in when it comes to education as well. You can send the kids to school. You can't force them to learn. But I really would like to see more buy-in with the kids and their parents. It's not easy to explain to a lot of people how important education is, especially if it didn't benefit them when they were in school.
Well, you can't say it didn't benefit them. It's how much did you put into it? How much did you as a person or your parents really invest in you in your education? Mm-hmm. Now, if you didn't put the time in doing your homework or your parents didn't help you out or, all that stuff weighs in. I mean, you can't blame it on the system. It's twofold. You have to you got to be good parents. I mean, we spend time with our kids helping the homework and everything. And, it's those type of investments that parents have to make now, because if you're not put in extra time reading with your kids, help them with the homework, math, English, whatever, social studies, then and if your child is struggling,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the outcome 9 times out of 10 isn't that positive.
Right. That's what I meant by buy-in. It's very important to really stay on top of the kids when it comes to school, because sometimes that might be the only chance they get to find opportunities. You never know what they're going to encounter when they grow up, and for them to be prepared is just of utmost importance.
Another thing that I know that helps, and I'm speaking from experience here because I'm a youth track and field coach. You got to find out what motivates your kids, and most kids they find their motivation, whether it be through sports, arts. You got to find out what else that will motivate them to keep them in school, to make sure their grades stay up to par, so they can participate in those things that motivate them to continue on.
It's maddening to me that when I see schools getting rid of courses that I know kids like you said, the arts. I mean, in some schools, okay, like I said, I'm from the South Side of Chicago. I'm not talking about a course here. I'm just talking about how the environment that kids are going to school in. My niece went to a school where the kids never went outside. They didn't even have gym. They had lunch in the classroom.
And then they wonder why we have a problem with childhood obesity here.
Exactly. And it was pitiful. Now, when I was a kid, we had our milk break at 10 o'clock. We went outside and threw things and jumped up and down and crashed into each other for 20 minutes. And, we were fine. After 20 minutes, same in the afternoon, you got to let off steam, And then these 45-minute classes in high school, oh my God, I would have died if I had, I'm not 45, I mean 90. The classes are 90 minutes now. There's no way I would have, as much as I love school, I don't know if I would have lasted 90 minutes for any class, even if I loved it. But really piling on these kids, I think. They have to be given a break. You know what? I want to mention one more thing, Omar. There's a school in Chicago called Benjamin Banneker.
Heard of it.
And, oh yeah, okay. They're doing something that I think is really wonderful. It's in an extremely low-income area of Inglewood. My mom used to teach over there in that area. I have a soft spot in my heart for Inglewood. But anyway, you know how it is when kids do commit crimes or do bad things. They say, oh, it's the parents, it's the house. The accolades when the students do well. And I think it's very, very important for the kids to get their props when they do well, especially in what they call low performing / low income schools. And one thing they do in the Benjamin Banneker School, which I'd love to see happen in other schools, they have a parade in the school. Okay, when the report cards come out, now I'm talking extremely low income. All right. Low expectations. Okay. When the kids get all E's and, well, I think they're A's and B's now, whatever, good grades on the report cards, they have all the kids in the school line up against their lockers along the hallway. They have the cheerleaders and the band, if there is a band or whatever, the kids beating drums or whatnot, forming, doing the parade thing. The kids behind them are the kids who have gotten the good grades. So the whole school is cheering them on. All right. But here's the cutest part. At the end of this parade, after all the kids have walked through the school with everybody cheering them on, the parents are in the parade. And that is remarkable to see, because a lot of times the parents are able to be there because they're not working or whatever. All right. And it is so sweet to see the parents blushing because, super low income, who gets accolades in neighborhoods like Inglewood, right? So these parents are almost like crying. I mean, they're like blushing and they're bashful and they've never been cheered before. And I think that's a wonderful thing. I think that's a really good, you're talking about what motivates kids. I think what would be nice is if we congratulate them every now and then. I think that would cause them to do better
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So fewer kids in trouble. Maybe the police force would stop cracking down on them so much and stopping them for no reason, right? I think the whole society would be better if we start from the bottom. To me, when you start with the police, you're starting almost at the end of the road, because then you're talking about criminal justice system.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you start from the very beginning and encouraging these kids, giving them a better chance to succeed in school, I think that would help society much more than just having a new police chief. I'm just saying.
I know, you're absolutely correct. I had some young men call me today after they saw the meeting that we had last night, and these young men are gang members and former gang members, and during that conversation, they told me what they need in their community for crime to go down, in order for the crime crime rate to go down in their community. And they alluded to jobs. Number one, they need jobs. They talked about on the South Side how they have all this construction going on right now on the South Side, and not one individual from their community got a job from that, which is amazing to me. That is a problem.
But didn't they have a training? I thought they had a training program at that new community center for those jobs, for some of those jobs, a couple of years ago.
All I know from speaking to these young men who were born and raised in that area and still live there, they said no one from that community has a construction job working in that community now.
Okay. I think that program they had, the Southside Community Center, I mean, they did have one, and I guess they sort of lost the names of the people who participated, or maybe they didn't plan to hire them at all. That's really disconcerting.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really sad. What else did they ask for?
Well, they said the kids need something to do, and they talked about that community center that they let me say, you call it a community center. I said a building that they threw some paint on, and it's hardly ever open. That they said, they built a little center, and they painted a brick house, and the facility's hardly ever open for the kids who want to come up and go up in there.
Well, I think the way it was supposed to have been set up was that Ray Earhart kept it open, and he was very instrumental in it being the house being transformed into a community center. What he told me was that he just couldn't do it all. He tried to get students from NCCU.
I get it.
And he wanted the parents to volunteer to keep it open, but he couldn't get anybody to volunteer. I know people like to get paid, but
yeah. I mean, you got to look. There's some people got paid for that community center to go up, right?
Well, yeah, to construct. Yeah. Sure.
I mean, okay, and in order for it to stay open, I mean, here's my problem. You have people that are, all these nonprofits here in Durham that say they do this and say they do that, but then when you have a nonprofit or organization or a community center within a high poverty, high crime community, they want us to volunteer and not get paid. I mean,
well, I don't know if Ray.
Let me finish.
Oh yeah,
The main problem is these people don't have jobs. The kids, the parents, they don't have jobs, and you're looking for them to what? Volunteer. It doesn't add up. Yeah. It doesn't add up. So don't complain because they're not volunteering.
I understand. I was just reporting on what I had been told. Although when you look at the community center, what's that called? Coach Emily K. Okay, Coach K. They're associated with the Catholic school and church over there.
I bet I'm willing to put every dollar in my pocket that the people that work over there or volunteer, most of them are getting paid.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
No question.
So that's the difference. You look at what they have. Yeah. What's really nice, and have all these amenities to it, and they're getting paid.
But see, that's what I'm saying.
You put paint, like I said, you put paint on a building,
Yeah.
and then you want people to volunteer.
I know
Huge
what I'm
difference in
saying.
that.
They need
And that's the problem.
They need
why
that hookup.
there have crime there.
They need that hookup. See, what I would have liked to have seen.
Not a hookup. They want an opportunity.
No,
it's not. They don't want hookup. They want opportunity.
I know, but here's what I'm trying to say. When Lion Park was rehabbed, it's part of Durham Parks and Recreation. They have that hookup. Their staff is, paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Community Center on South Street, on the south side, they don't have that hookup. They're not. They're just floating there. I wish they had some kind of connection with Durham Parks and Recreation or whatever, so that jobs could be available.
If they really wanted that facility to
succeed, how it works though.
If they really wanted that facility to succeed, they would find some grants to make that a sustainable building. They would find a grant for to put somebody to hire a couple of people from that community to make sure the doors stayed open. But they know what they're doing. It was all planned. They put something there to say, see, we gave them something. They don't want it. They're not using it, and it's not open. That's the reason why you have a new development going on all around that area, because they say these people, they don't want anything. You give them something nice and they're not going to use it. It's a sense of hopelessness. When you put, like I said, when you put paint on a building and leave it closed, you still didn't give them nothing.
I understand. And I agree with you. I just brought that up because I really wanted to hear what you had to say about it. It's really sad to see how things work out in certain communities. Again, if they had been affiliated with someone, or like you said, if they had been able to write some grants, that would have been really hip. Because to me, it's a nice center. They got computers in there, and it could be pretty cool if they really. I mean, I didn't know that it was doomed from the start.
Somebody asked me, I remember when they did it, because that's when I stayed on that side of town. I mean, I stayed right down the street from there. And when they did it, and they was like, man, we did this nice community center. I looked, I said, y'all just do some paint on a house. I mean, I didn't bother to go in, but I mean, I looked at it, I'm like, that's what they think about us. They'll give us, they'll toss us a bone, and they'll do something nice in South Durham, like Herndon Park. They put all kinds of turf fields and nice playground area. And it's a really, really nice park. But this community here, they just, like I said, slap some paint on a building and put up a couple computers.
It's that they didn't have the wherewithal to, like I said, get that hookup via grants or affiliations.
Well, they could have.
So close to NCCU, though. I would have hoped that someone would have. Anyway, I don't know how these things work. I really don't. I just think that it's a shame because it was a cool idea. I was there for the grand opening, and I was kind of excited. Maybe I'm really fooled, but I'm a softie.
I mean, the intention was there, great intention, but sustainability is one thing, and you gotta. Like I said, the main problem over there, education is one of them. The computers may have addressed some of that, but if you don't have anybody in there to quote unquote volunteer, or should I say work, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen. I mean, jobs are the most important piece over there. And when you have somebody willing to go over there, you got, like I said, you got to find their motivation, volunteers. And most volunteers' motivation is getting paid.
Yeah, I got you. Or some people volunteer knowing that they're going to be paid down the line. Not in this case. But I mean, that does motivate some people. I understand. That's too bad. Well, I don't want to take too much of your time because I know your kids is very quiet in there now. I know Dad's always worried when it gets too quiet. So
yeah, I mean, I got good kids though.
Okay. But thanks so much for being on the show, Omar. I really appreciate it. You want to throw out give any information about your track and field? I didn't know you did track and field. Tell me about that real quick.
I have a youth track and field organization. It's called Bull City Express Track Club. We're based out of here in Durham, and we practice at North Carolina Central. We're getting ready to kick off our indoor season, which we'll do a lot of traveling. We'll be going to Maryland, to Virginia, because we don't have the facilities here in Durham. So we're just getting ready for that. And after that, we have our summer track season, what they call it. We start in March, and the kids will run all the way through July. So
what age kids are we talking about?
we start at age 6, and we go up to 18. So we have last year we had about 72 kids in our program.
Okay.
We had 3 seniors last year. All of them got scholarships to college.
Whoa, for real?
Yeah. We have one at Duke. We have one at UNC Charlotte, and the other one is at University of Miami.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, when you say track, now I don't know everything about this, but is it the like the cross country or just the speed kind of track?
Well, I mean,
By lack of
it's all speed, but we have sprinters. I mean, I call track and field a 3-ring circus.
Okay. Run,
jump, and throw. We have sprinters. We have long distance runners. We have long jumpers, triple jumpers, high jumpers. We have it all.
Okay, so I was going to ask you next about the other events. So you do have those other events with the long jump, and also what's the other one with the discus and the
discus, shot put, and the turbo javelin. For that.
And what's that, pole vaulting? Do you have that too?
Oh, well, we don't have any pole vaulters on our club. I mean, that is a very, very technical event where if you don't have the proper coaching, someone can get hurt pretty bad. And I wasn't a pole vaulter, and we don't have any former pole vaulters on our staff. So if anyone wants to pole vault, we send them to there's a coach over there in Chapel Hill where they coach some pole vaulters. So we send them over there.
Okay, so is it too late to sign up for this year? If parents are interested, what should they do?
Absolutely. They can go to our website, which is bullcityexpress.com, and or they can go to our Facebook page, which it's Bull City Express Track Club in Facebook, and they can get the registration forms, fill them out, and my contact information is on there. It's 919-201-6398, or they can email me at bullcityexpresstc@gmail.com.
And I will look for the information as well and add it to the Durham Skywriter online on durhamskywriter.com if you want to check that out. I will definitely write about that. I did not know about the Bull City Express. I only knew about the Striders.
Yeah, check us out. Okay.
Let's do some video and whatnot. I love to highlight the kids, Come
check actually in March, April, why don't you come on out and take a look at one of our practices? You can probably get some great footage.
I would love to. I was hired once to take photos at a cross-country event in Cary. I had no idea what I was looking at. It was really fun, though.
Yeah, my son runs cross-country. He's a middle distance.
Here's the thing. I just want to say this one last thing. A friend of mine used to run cross-country, and he said that very often the Black kids don't want to run or they don't know much about cross-country. He says it's a beautiful way to develop your toughness, your mental toughness and whatnot. Now I was watching this, my first ever cross-country meet, taking pictures. All the kids were white. There was one, maybe 2 Black youngsters. Mm-hmm. And I can't express what I saw. I mean, they were running for, it seemed like forever. And some of them were getting sick. I guess you've seen that when they were feeling it, so to speak. Yeah. So here are all these kids running, and it was cold out, and they're wearing these little shorts, and I was worried about them. Here's the thing, at the finish line, so I positioned myself at the finish line when it was time. Now, I think I told you there was only 1 or 2 Black kids in this whole event. Mm-hmm. So who comes sailing to the finish line, his arms at his side, running at a cool pace while the other kids are throwing up, was the Black kid. I was very impressed. And the person who was with me said that a lot of us really don't know what we can do when it comes to such things as cross country. We think, oh, it's hard. But he says that when you really challenge black youngsters, they will surprise the heck out of you.
We are an incredible people. You look at a lot of the inventions from the early part of the 19th century or late 1800s, done by black people. Yeah, sports in general. I mean, you look at slavery. We were a very strong people. I mean, the Americans. I mean, the white man. They first put Indians in slavery, and they almost died off working in the field.
Yeah, they didn't do well.
They brought the Africans over, and we worked from sun up to sundown. Mm-hmm. We have the mettle to endure almost anything, and I know for sure that we can run distances. The best distance runners in the world are Kenyans. They're Africans. So,
yeah, that's very curious. Yeah, it's very interesting. I heard a report about why that is, and it's too long to go into right now. But I want to say one thing about sports and the black athlete. Mm-hmm. Now, again, I don't follow sports like, I'm not the biggest sports fan. But what I do realize, very often it was the black athlete who brought value to the game. And what I mean is, I do remember when, I think it was Curt Flood from St. Louis, the Cardinals, baseball Cardinals.
Free agency.
He was the one, right. He was the first free agent. He was the guy who held out for what he was actually worth. Mm-hmm. All right. That didn't happen before him.
Nope.
I remember when it came to soccer, when we were kids watching Pelé in Brazil, he was the first $1 million athlete of all time. He was the first $1 million athlete. And he was declared a national treasure by his country. Before the so-called, contributions of the African-American athletes, sports was just a working class, low-paid kind of game. And I really, like I said, I don't follow all the sports. I don't know all about touchdowns and all that kind of stuff. But I do value the fact that it was more often than not the black athlete who raised the game to the level that it is now in terms, not only in skills, but in terms of money made. In fact, I think they're making maybe a little bit too much money now, like $30 million and $1 billion.
I would never say they're making too much money. You got to look how much the owners are making and how much revenue. Okay. You look at all the revenues that are being made off their entertaining folks.
I understand.
I think they're worth every dime.
One person having $30 million in his hands is just wild.
Well, I mean, when you really look at it, they're not making $30 million. If somebody gets a contract for $30 million, mm-hmm. Their agent's getting a piece of it. Their retirement is getting a piece of it. Mm-hmm. The association is getting a piece of it. So at the end of the day, if they have a $30 million contract, they might walk away with 20 if they're lucky.
You said the association.
Yeah, the NBA, they have NBA, the NFL, they have an association that all the athletes got to pay into for their retirement, for their health benefits, all that. So it's not just a contract. I got $30 million. That's me. It's not all them. They got to pay into their retirement. They got to pay into the health, the insurance. They got to give their agent, mm-hmm. whatever percentage they agreed to. So,
and for some sports, it's a kind of a short-term job, isn't it? Like 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look the career length, the average career length of an NFL player is probably 5 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
At best. I mean, you might have some athletes that are very successful and they may stick around for about 10 years, but those aren't the norm. And you would hope and pray that these young guys, they manage their money well or save as much as they can during that short period. Because if not, then they'll be broken. I mean, because it could serve as a leg up to their future, mm-hmm. or it could be a nice party for them. That's all.
Wow. And with that, I'll say good night to you, Mr. Beasley. I appreciate you being on the show. I'll be putting this up on YouTube soon. I'm going to edit out the first part where we were trying to figure out how to get online.
Thank you.
No problem. So let's talk later because I do want to cover the Bull City Express and the Durham Skywriter. Okay. Cool. I'm really glad you told me about that.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, I hope you enjoyed that show. Now, if you have information for the Durham Skywriter, that's Durham, North Carolina's online community paper, get in contact with me. You can reach me by Twitter at Durham Skywriter, or just call me, 919, I don't mind giving my phone number, 809-9682. TV Skywriter is what this is on Blab. Usually it's on Google+. I'll try just about anything to get the word out to you. Blab, Periscope, which I do every morning. I do Google City Notes every morning on Periscope, Google+, whatever it takes. So if you are interested in being on the show, you want to talk about community issues. Now, even though we didn't have an audience today, that's cool. I don't even mind. Even though I sent the word out, that's absolutely. Oh, wait, let me throw you some props. There you go. Boom. So I'll do whatever it takes to get the information out to the people, because I just think it's so interesting. I think that knowledge is power, and you're just walking around blind if you don't know what's happening. I'm just saying. So please get in contact with me and spread the information and the knowledge with the folks, because another reason I'm doing this on Blab, even though we don't have an audience, I hope to build one. I'm kind of tired of me just talking to you. That's the way it is with media. We're sitting and we're consuming, And I know a lot of people are going to watch this on the replay as opposed to taking part. But I do hope that we can turn the tables here. I don't want to just always be the one, me talking to you, because then why am I calling myself a community media person? I call my newspaper, it's online, but I call it a newspaper, Durham's community paper. It shouldn't be just me talking to you. I want you to talk to me, and I want us to talk together. And with that, I'll say good evening, and I'll see you tomorrow around 10 o'clock with Bull City Notes on Periscope. Ciao for now. See you, Omar. Okay.
Peace.
Bye-bye.